Former Pittsburgh Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell sparked significant backlash over the weekend when he shared a photo of himself wearing a shirt with an offensive message directed at Vice President Kamala Harris. The shirt, which referred to Harris in derogatory terms, quickly became a flashpoint for controversy. The language on the shirt was seen by many as a clear indication of Bell's political allegiance to former President Donald Trump, and it didn't take long for social media to erupt in anger. The controversy surrounding Bell's wardrobe choice escalated quickly, with many accusing the former NFL star of using sexist and misogynistic language to attack Harris, the first female vice president of the United States. The backlash was immediate, with the offensive nature of the shirt's message leading to a wave of criticism from a wide range of people, including politicians, activists, and ordinary social media users. Many felt that Bell's actions were a deliberate provocation, using disrespectful and degrading language to express his political views. The term featured on the shirt holds a particularly derogatory meaning, especially when used to attack a sitting vice president. The gravity of the situation was made even clearer given that Bell had chosen to wear this shirt in a public post. One of the most vocal critics of Bell's actions was actress Holly Robinson Peete, best known for her role on the TV show Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Peete, a longtime friend of Kamala Harris, did not hesitate to express her outrage upon seeing the post. She had known Harris for over 20 years, and the disrespect Bell displayed toward her friend, along with the sexist nature of the comment, deeply offended Peete. In a heartfelt and emotional repost of Bell's photo, Peete shared her dismay. Her response was filled with frustration, not only because of the personal insult to Harris, but also because of the broader implications of such rhetoric. For Peete, the shirt symbolized the kind of harmful language women, particularly women of color, face when they attain positions of power. As someone who had witnessed Harris's rise through the ranks of American politics, Peete saw Bell's choice of clothing as an attack on the progress women have made, especially in the political sphere. Pete's impassioned condemnation was a response to what she saw as an attack on Harris's character, not based on her qualifications or achievements, but rooted in harmful and outdated sexist stereotypes. Pete's long-standing friendship with Harris added an intensely personal dimension to her rebuke. In her repost, Peete made it clear that this wasn't just about defending a public figure, but about standing up against the misogyny and racial bias that women, particularly women of color, frequently endure in leadership roles. Harris's journey from prosecutor to California's Attorney General, then to the U.S. Senate, and finally to the vice presidency, is one marked by years of hard work and perseverance. To Peete, it was deeply ironic and offensive for Bell, a former professional athlete, to publicly degrade Harris with such an offensive term, especially in light of her remarkable career trajectory. Moreover, Pete's criticism extended beyond the immediate insult. She also took issue with Bell's public political allegiance to Donald Trump. Peete pointed out the glaring hypocrisy in Bell's support for Trump, a politician who has made derogatory remarks about athletes, particularly Black athletes, and their protests against police brutality. In particular, Trump's history of disparaging remarks about NFL players who took a knee during the national anthem was well known. In 2017, Trump referred to those players as sons of B**********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************ă Trump's stance had sparked widespread controversy, turning the debate over racial justice and protests in sports into a bitter political battle. Pete's mention of Trump's inflammatory rhetoric brought attention to the irony of Bell, a former NFL player, supporting a man who had publicly denigrated the sport that gave Bell his platform. Trump's repeated calls to boycott the NFL and his disdain for athletes who peacefully protested police brutality were well documented. And Peete highlighted the contradiction in Bell's support for such a figure while wearing a shirt that insulted a woman who had worked tirelessly for justice throughout her career. In addition to criticizing Bell's political views, Peete also took aim at his personal life, questioning how someone with multiple children from different relationships could be so quick to use sexist language against a woman. Pete's remark about Belle's relationships, how a man with 6 baby mamas calls anybody, added another layer to her argument. She was calling attention to the double standard that often exists in society when it comes to how men and women are judged for their personal lives. While women, particularly women in the public eye, are often criticized for their personal choices, men are frequently given a pass, even when their own lives might be called into question. Peter's comment about Belle's personal life resonated with many who saw it as an apt critique of his hypocrisy. For Pete, the issue wasn't just about defending Kamala Harris, but about standing up for all women who have faced similar attacks. The offensive message on Belle's shirt, coupled with his political alignment with Trump, seemed to epitomize the broader cultural issues that Pete and many others have been fighting against: the normalization of misogynistic and racially charged language aimed at women of color, especially those in positions of power. Furthermore, Pete's message had an even broader social context. By invoking former President Barack Obama's calls for unity within the Black community, Pete framed the incident as a call to action for Black men to stand against the kind of rhetoric that harms Black women. She hoped that Black men, particularly those in her life, would recognize the impact of such language and take a stand in solidarity with women of color. Pete's response to Belle's offensive shirt was part of a larger cultural movement where public figures are increasingly being held accountable for their words and actions. As society becomes more aware of the harmful effects of misogyny, racism, and other forms of bigotry, there has been a growing call to challenge harmful rhetoric and defend the dignity of marginalized groups. Pete's decision to speak out wasn't just about Belle's actions, but also about sending a broader message about respect, justice, and the importance of standing up against hate and discrimination. As the controversy surrounding Belle's post continued to unfold, it was clear that the conversation extended far beyond Belle's political views or his personal grievances. It was about the treatment of women in power, particularly women of color, and the need for a more respectful and inclusive public discourse. For Pete and many others, Belle's actions were a stark reminder of the work still needed to ensure that public figures, especially women, are not subjected to harmful language and degrading stereotypes. In 2016, Michelle Obama's famous words, "When they go low, we go high," became a rallying cry for those advocating for civility, dignity, and grace in politics. The phrase was a testament to her commitment to maintaining integrity in the face of personal attacks, and it resonated deeply with many Americans who believed in the values of respect and kindness. Delivered during her speech at the Democratic National Convention, her words were emblematic of a political climate that, at the time, was still characterized by at least some semblance of decorum. However, as the political landscape has evolved, especially in the lead-up to the 2024 presidential election, the atmosphere has shifted dramatically. Political civility has all but disappeared, replaced by raw confrontation and an increasingly combative tone. In the 2024 race, the stakes are higher than ever, with rhetoric sharper and more personal. Former President Donald Trump, who is running for a second term, has become notorious for his fiery, often caustic attacks against his opponents, and there appears to be no limit to how low he is willing to go. His remarks, once aimed primarily at his primary opponents within the GOP, have grown more pointed and divisive. His criticism now spans the entire political spectrum, including Democratic leaders such as Vice President Kamala Harris, and even figures who represent progressive ideals that are diametrically opposed to his own. Trump's unrelenting verbal jabs and inflammatory comments signal a departure from the type of political sparring that used to be commonplace, even in the most heated of campaigns. He appears to be unfazed by the backlash he receives, treating each criticism as fuel for his next remark, seemingly indifferent to the divisiveness of his words. Michelle Obama, once a strong proponent of the philosophy of rising above, has found herself adapting to this new and volatile political environment. No longer content to simply sidestep Trump's harsh comments, she has stepped into a more vocal and assertive role as she campaigns in support of Harris. Michelle's tone has shifted dramatically, reflecting the urgency of the political moment. In speeches and public appearances, she has directly confronted Trump's rhetoric, criticizing him for his petty and brazen tactics. She has also decried what she views as his backward vision for America, which she believes is attempting to infect the nation's political discourse with divisiveness and hatred. Michelle's words have taken on a new weight in this high-stakes election as she calls out Trump's behavior and positions him as a fundamental threat to the values of inclusion, respect, and unity that she holds dear. Her speeches emphasize a vision of America defined by compassion, integrity, and accountability, qualities that she sees as missing from Trump's campaign, which she believes thrives on division and controversy. This shift in her approach highlights a broader shift within the Democratic Party, which is now prioritizing a more direct and confrontational stance against Trump and his supporters. Michelle Obama's decision to forgo her famous motto in favor of more direct, candid critiques of Trump speaks volumes about the urgency she feels in protecting the values that she has championed throughout her public life. Her critiques have resonated with those who admire her for her courage and honesty, and her influence on the campaign trail has brought new energy and attention to Harris's bid for the presidency. Her shift away from a more reserved public persona and toward a more forceful stance has surprised many who have come to associate Michelle with calmness and grace. Yet, it is clear that she has evolved in response to the current political climate. As the election approaches, she feels a sense of responsibility to speak out more loudly, making it clear that the future of the nation is on the line. At a rally in Pennsylvania on November 2nd, Michelle Obama made what many described as her most candid critique of Donald Trump to date. Standing before a crowd of supporters and speaking to countless others watching from afar, Michelle did not hold back in her assessment of the former president. She painted Trump as a figure intent on tearing apart the fabric of American democracy, undermining unity, and promoting the very values she has spent much of her career championing. Her remarks took Trump by surprise. Known for his sharp words and combative language, the former president did not anticipate that Michelle, a figure long associated with grace and restraint, would confront him with such directness. This moment marked a dramatic shift in the way Michelle approaches her public advocacy, as she took on Trump's combative rhetoric head-on, something few Democrats had been willing to do in such an unvarnished way. Trump's response to Michelle's remarks was equally revealing. At a rally in Raleigh, North Carolina, on November 4th, the eve of the election, Trump reacted with a mix of frustration and disbelief. Referring to Michelle's memoir, The Light We Carry, Trump remarked that he had been so nice to her out of respect, but now he felt personally attacked. In a moment that captured his characteristic defiance, Trump joked about the possibility of retaliating against Michelle, suggesting that his supporters had advised him to take it easy. But his words were tinged with frustration, as if Michelle's criticism had rattled him in ways he had not expected. The personal nature of the 2024 race was evident in this exchange. The dynamics between Trump and Michelle Obama were no longer about policy disagreements or political strategy. They were about personalities, character, and the future of American governance. Trump's response to Michelle underscored how deeply personal the election had become, with both sides using the race as an opportunity to solidify their political legacies and confront the future of the nation. This exchange also highlighted the growing tension within the Republican Party and Trump's base. Despite advice from his advisors to remain calm, Trump couldn't help but escalate the situation, treating Michelle's remarks as an affront that demanded an immediate response. In doing so, He turned his public rally into a spectacle, positioning his supporters as fellow combatants in his ongoing struggle with critics and emphasizing his brand of politics as one rooted in defiance and relentless confrontation.